Hello everyone, I'm LaserDude99. So, this is a little bit out of the norm for me. I'm normally someone who does movie reviews and whatnot, but I am super psyched up for this Survivor Second Chances season that we have going on right now. Or that we have, deciding right now. Lots of people, it's time to vote. You get 10 votes per day for 10 votes for female castaways, 10 votes for male castaways, and I decided, you know what, I am a super Survivor fan. I've seen every single season. Heck, I even watched a little bit of Celebrity Survivor Australia, even though it wasn't that good. But, so I decided to go over the cast, and I'm going to tell you who I did. Like, this is for people who either are super fans and want to see my opinion, or are fans of Survivor but haven't seen every season and think, well, there's a bunch of people here that I don't know and I don't really know who to vote for. Well, here's my opinion on who deserves a Survivor second chance. I'm just going to go down the list, go one woman, one man at a time. So the first one, Ciera Eastin, she was in Blood vs. Water. She deserves a second chance, absolutely. I will say that, here's how I'm doing it. I'm going to say either I voted for every odd time, every time, or not at all. Okay, so for Ciera Eastin, she's someone I voted for every time so far that I voted, because you know, while she struggled in the early game, and she's one of those players who her pre-merge or pre-swap game can struggle a little bit because she's not the most physically fit, while that may be a factor on a regular season, on all-star seasons, people aren't so worried about that, so she might be able to move in. Like, for example, Cochran in his first season was always like a liability. People said, oh man, he's so weak, he's so weak. And then the next season, it wasn't even brought up once because he was on a thing of fans, and it was all about the social game and not so much about the physical prowess. Anyway, so Ciera, I believe, she can do it. I think she can do it very, very well, because you have that one moment that I just think is absolutely brilliant when they're trying to find out if, I believe it's Katie, has an immunity idol to vote for her. And she goes up to Katie and she goes, do you have the idol? And Katie, not wanting to go home, says, yes, I have the idol. And she goes, you don't have the idol because I have the idol. And then Katie goes, what? How did you get the idol? In that moment, she knew that Katie didn't have the idol. That is smart gameplay. I want to see more stuff on that from her. I think that she's recent enough and popular enough that she will get on the island. So that's Ciera. Next, Jeremy Collins. Jeremy was my ray of sunshine for the most part of Survivor San Juan del Sur, because he had a lot of people on there that were pretty thick. And Jeremy was the one that I really, really liked. He was my pick. You know, when he was voted out, I was so mad. I thought, oh man, he was going to go all the way to the end. Don't get me wrong, Natalie was my second pick right after he was gone, and I'm glad that she won. But I think Jeremy deserves a second chance, because I think what Jeremy's problem was, he was on a tribe of not so good players. And I think that actually was kind of a problem for him. You know, he couldn't strategize with everybody or, manipulate anybody, really, because, like he was, when he was trying to say, I think he was saying to Mr. Lang, yeah, I think that John's lying to me, so I think we might have to vote him out soon after this vote. And then she goes, oh, okay. And then John goes, hey, I don't like that Jeremy's talking about voting me out. Can we vote him out? And God, so, people weren't thinking things through entirely, where you have a scene like this where he might be able to go around. So Jeremy is another one that gets my vote every time. Let's go to someone who does not get my vote every time, or in fact, she has not gotten my vote once. Kaos Kass. Look, now, when it comes to Caos Kass, she doesn't get my vote because she is really, really bad at one part of the game, the social game. And because, every time when I was watching Survivor Cagayan, I was like, Cass, what are you doing? Like, here's the thing. I always used to think that the Tony idol play, when Tony pulled out his idol, then LJ played it on him, I always thought him bringing it out beforehand was kind of pointless. Like, why not, if you think they're all voting for you, why not keep it and then play it on yourself. But then I realized he pulls out an idol. That's scary. And you have Cass, who's been approached by Triss to flip. Now Cass probably might. I'm just guessing. I'm spitting in the wind here. But Cass might have thought that. Cass might have been like, yeah, I'll keep it in the back of my mind, but I'm still going to vote them out. And then when that idol comes out, I think that idol might have scared her into flipping, because you don't know if he's going to play it on the right person or not. And so you want to be on the right side of the alliance. And the only way to assuredly put you on those numbers is to flip. Sure, but also you want to realize that all those people are now pissed off at you and there's no way you're going to win. Now, here's the thing. Cass is not the worst player in the world. No. I don't think she can win. And I want everyone in the season to be someone who has a chance to win. So, that's why I say I personally would not throw a vote for Cass. I bet she's going to be on there anyway, because people would love to see her tear stuff up again. But I don't think... When you name yourself Caos Kass, nobody's going to trust you that far. Sure, you might be a perfect goat to take to the end, but when you're on day one and people know your game, nobody's going to want to take you far, because you might be a good goat at the end, but that's a long way away, and that's too far for anyone to trust you. Anyway, next we got Mike Calloway. I'm hoping that we don't see Mike, or not Calloway, Holloway. Mike Holloway. I'm hoping that we don't see Mike, mostly because I want him to win this season. I really do. I really hope this is just a ploy to throw people off to say, oh, well, now Rodney wins, and I do not think that's going to happen. The winner's edit is way too thick for me to think that anyone else other than Mike can win. If he did lose, let's say he lost to Mama C, if he did lose, I would want him back, because this guy is thinking out of the box. He did my play. He did my stinking play. It didn't work out exactly how, I always thought, I've stayed up night about thinking about this. The move when Malcolm did in the Fans for His Favorites 2, when he gave his idol to Eddie and he kept one for himself, and he said, we're all voting for Philip. I always said to myself, that's the wrong move. Do not tell them who they're voting for. Because as soon as everybody else knows, oh, they're voting for Philip, well, not voting for me, so I'll vote the way I was going to anyway. And, surprisingly, Philip kind of did the most sacrificial move in all of Survivor by saying, hey, if it's me, it's me. That's like the most selfless move anyone has ever done in Survivor. Except for maybe Janu quitting for Stephanie. Anyway, anyway, so Mike is thinking outside of the box. He's thinking, I think he could do a great job. I'm hoping that he wins this season, so I hope he's not on this season, but if he is eligible, I definitely want him back. For women, next we got T-Bird, Teresa, T-Bird Cooper. This is another one that I say vote every time, because unlike someone like Cass, who is saying, oh, I'm a mom, but I'm a deadly mom, T-Bird is one of these people that will be kind to you, but if you're not on her side of the number, she'll get you out, and she'll do it where you're thinking, and you'll be thinking afterwards, oh, good on you, T-Bird, you got me, rather than Cass, which you'll be thinking, oh, I want to kill you. So T-Bird is one who actually is strategically thinking and actually takes advantages as every opportunity that comes her way. She was very close. If it wasn't for Brandon saying, I don't want to work with Frank and hit on her season, she might have really gone far. She deserves a second chance. Definitely, I would say vote for T-Bird. That's a vote for every time. Next, on the guys' side, we got Jim Rice. Now, Jim, he's one where I say every odd vote. Like you get 10 votes, and sometimes you're going to be like, well, maybe I'll throw one vote this way, maybe I'll throw one vote that way. I would be okay to see Jim back. Jim's not one of these players that I'm like, oh, you need to get him back. Because one thing that just always sticks out in my mind, when Cochran flipped, what does Jim do? He goes, coward, you were a coward. Sure, I get it. I get it. In the moment you betrayed, you feel like that, but you keep bashing him and everything, and to the point where there's no way he'd ever return. You know, Cochrane's the type of player that maybe if he got some numbers on his side, he could have flipped it back with you, but as soon as you shunned him so much, that means there was no hope that he'd ever work with you again. And that's the one thing where I'm not comfortable with, because if you want to be able to get out from the bottom and go up to the top, you got to be able to control those emotions and control those feelings and make yourself not I don't know, but he does have some strategic gameplay. The moment in his season where he voted out the girl that Ozzy was hanging out with all the time just so he couldn't run the game, that was very smart of him. He's a good player. I don't think he's a bad player at all, but he's not one that I'm throwing a vote for every time. Now, next we got Mama C. Now, Mama C, I'll go into this a little bit more when we get to Shirin, but Mama C is the one out of the two people on Survivor that I throw a vote at every time. Because Mama C, she is a player. She plays hard, she knows how to keep a secret, and she knows how to, you know, she's willing, as we just saw when she took out Tyler, she's willing to make the big moves in order to get to the end. She's willing to take out the ally. She's willing to do whatever it takes. You know, like, you have someone like Trish, who was never planning to take out Tony, was planning to go to the end with Tony 100%, and he would have beaten her. He didn't want to take that risk, though, but you know, this, you know, Mama C is someone who's like, I'll take you as far as I can take you, but if you are going to beat me, I don't want to go to the end with you, even if you're my closest ally. That's not my thing. That's the type of person I want back on Survivor. So, once again, she could win this season. I think it's definitely either going to be Mike or Mama C, but I think that Mama C, I'm pretty sure Mike's going to win, so I want Mama C back. So she's a vote I throw for every time. Spencer! Vote. Just vote. Vote, vote, vote. I'm not sure if Spencer can win this type of season. I think that his popularity is going to be a problem. Not only for people who want to be the new Spencer and want to be the next most popular guy out there, but for people, for Spencer, it's interesting because he's like the hero boy, where you watch his original videos, he's like, I'm gonna be the villain, I'm gonna be backstabbing everyone, and he might well be, but he was always at the bottom, so he never got a chance to be. That could actually work in his favor. You know, you look at somebody like Stephanie from Panama, or no, Palau, and then Guatemala, was it? Anyway, in Palau, she was seen as everybody's hero. You know, she was on a tribe that was destroyed. She was the last one standing. She fought her way, and then when she was always at the bottom, but she was a fighter, and she fought her way, so they gave her this glorified edit that she was the wholesome, all-American, strong woman, and everyone's loved her. And then when she went on her next season, she was in a position of power, and then she started doing all the more underhanded things that you needed to do as the villain. You know, in order to get to the end. And because of that, you know, people are like, what? You're a villain? I didn't, why? You were the villain the first time. It's all about position. Maybe if Spencer gets into a position of power, he might be able to go into that more villainous role that he always wanted. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see from the young lad, but either way, I say vote. Vote every time. Monica Padilla. She's another one that I have been voting for every time, but I'm going to say throw the odd vote on her because she actually got under Russell's skin in her season at the end. She was really a big follower of Lauren Moret, and you know, a lot of these players are saying, oh, I'm going to be different, I'm going to be doing stuff differently. I'm like, well, maybe you are. We don't know. You know, there's some players in here that are saying, oh, I'm going to do stuff differently, I'm going to be better, and some of them I buy it, like Ciera, but some of them I don't know. Like, and Monica is the one that I have a little bit more faith in, some of the others, but still, there's some that I'm just like, I don't know. So Monica, I would say vote for her, but it's kind of like half vote for her every time, half every odd vote. It's like because I've been voting for every time, but that's because some of these women, which I'm sure I'll get to, I'm really wondering why they're there. Next we got Keith Nail. No, he's not getting any votes from me. He's going to be on, I bet, because he was one of the more popular people on San Juan del Sur, but no, I'm not voting for Keith. Stick to the plan. No, because Keith is not a good player. He's not. He's a good challenge competitor. He made his way through many alliances, but he was not a good player. He was never thinking outside the box. He was always confined to the game. He thought that one of his allies, when they were going to blindside one of the big players, he thought just because he was talking in tribal council that about something that was contrary to what was happening, he thought that he was flipping on him. No, he's not a good player. And the thing is, if he gets back there, I think he's going to go far. And I don't want to see Keith go far again, okay? So, my personal opinion is, I'm not voting for Keith, not one. Kelly Wentworth, on the other hand, she's getting my vote every time. Now, you might ask why, because Kelly, to some people, might be, well, she didn't even get that far. No, well, she got pretty far. She got to the switch. But I think one of the things is she was really a player that was screwed over because of the family situation. You know, because her dad was there, because her dad didn't get along with one of the other tribe mates, it made it very easy for them to vilify him and then get her out. I think that Kelly is actually quite smart from everything I've seen and heard from her. I just think she was in the wrong place at the wrong time and didn't get a chance to actually show it. Because I think she got out the bad arse, Drew Christie. That guy's so dumb. But, she, I think, has the potential to be a really good player. And I think Kelly Wentworth is definitely one that I want to see moving forward. Troyzan! Troyzan is getting my every odd vote. Because, actually, on not Blood vs. Water, One World, when I originally saw it, I was cheering for Troyzan. Mostly because Colton had gotten rid of the guys that I actually were cheering for, and then Troyzan was the only guy left near the end, except for Tarzan. I'm like, no, that guy's not doing anything. So Troyzan, I was actually doing so. He does have a problem where he was easily manipulated by Kim, where Kim said, hey, he was talking about you, and Troyzan, well then, he's dead to me, I'm gonna get him out. I'm like, he's a little easily manipulated. Maybe Kim's just that good. I don't know. Either way, Troyzan, I'm throwing every odd vote because he was entertaining. He's like, he was a little weird, but he was entertaining and he was fun. And I like Troyzan. I think he's a good guy, but I don't think he's great. But he's an okay pick. I think that if anyone was up to this second chance, I would have chosen Troyzan to be up for it too. Natalie Tintorelli, what the heck is she doing here? I'm going to say throw every odd vote because there are some other people that I think even less of. But she's saying how I learned a lot from Boston Rob and I know how to play this game. But she still seems to me like I still have the feeling that she's going to fall in the same trap, that she's going to find a strong guy and be friends with him because she's going to be afraid and not going to know what to do out there. And then she's going to fall into the exact same traps, and she's going to probably go to the end with that guy, or I shouldn't say guy. It could be she goes up to a strong woman. It shouldn't just be a stronger player's going to take hold, and she's going to be a follower. That's how I feel. But I'm saying throwing every odd vote because it's possible that she might get on there. I don't know. She's kind of half between don't vote and every odd vote. I have to say every odd vote because I have voted for her because there's some of these people that I really don't know what they're there for. Anyway, Shane Powers, vote, 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 vote. You know how people say, was like, well, Rodney's not a good player, really, but he makes great television. Shane is a good player, and he makes great television. I mean, Shane is the type of guy who, when he was out there, he went nuts. And he went absolutely crazy. And guess what? He was actually still a contender to win the game, actually. In the end, a lot of people were saying, oh, I'll take Shane to the end because nobody likes him. But in the end, everyone kind of warmed up to his offbeat personality, and they did kind of like him. So he was actually a threat to win the game. I don't know if Shane's like, if he still smokes, or because when he originally went on, he had just quit smoking the day he went on Survivor. And, I don't know if he has quit entirely, but either way, Shane is going to be absolutely entertaining. Shane, I would love to get on. You know, like, people might say, well, Keith isn't a great player, but he's entertaining. Shane Powers is way more entertaining than Keith Nail is. And you know what? I bet that people were just watching Terry's season to say, oh, well, let's get Terry back because he's a player that needs a second test, and they just were reminded of the glory of Shane. I've actually been rewatching his season, XL Island, recently because I think that I was just rewatching it just because. And Shane actually, you know what? He makes alliances. He might be hard to deal with sometimes because he's a little crazy. But you know what? He went far. He went far into the game. And if it wasn't for Suri, he might have went to the end with Terry. Anyway, next we got Kelly's Wigglesworth. Vote. This is definitely one you got to vote for every time because she is the second place finisher. She's basically the first loser. I hate to say it like that. But she actually has, a lot of stuff that she has set the record for most challenges won by a woman. I think it's actually tied with Ozzy. I think 4 challenges in a row is the record. I don't know that for sure, but basically Kelly is one of those who I would love to see after, because let me tell you something. I've watched, within the last year, I've watched Borneo for the first time. Because I got onto Survivor, my first season fully was All-Stars. And Borneo was such a hard season for me to watch. Because I've gotten used to this all-Survivor, the strategizing and everything. And that season, everyone was like, alliance? That's an evil word. Nobody wants to put an alliance together. And she actually broke herself from her alliance because she thought it was wrong to have an alliance. And I don't know how. It was very telling that she was a challenge beast. She won all these challenges. She was very liked, and she still didn't win. Why? Because you need the alliance, you need the numbers, you needed to make the right relationships, the right impact on people. And I think that she coming back would be such an interesting thing to see if she can adapt or if she's stuck in still Survivor 1 mindset. I don't think she's going to say, well, I don't want to be in an alliance or anything, but you got Jervis who, when he came back, sure, he went to the end, but he was still against someone who was going to beat him. I want to see if Kelly can do it. She's a more mature, more grown-up woman, and she can. I want to see if she can do well. Woo! No, I think Woo's gonna get back, but I don't want him back personally. Woo was a follower. Woo was one of those players. And, Woo isn't one of those players that it's been years since he played, and, he has time to have learned from his mistakes. It's only been a year, so Woo hasn't really changed a whole lot, and I don't think that Woo is going to be a player again. I think he's probably going to make similar mistakes, and he thinks, I think from what I saw from the video, he thinks his only mistake was not voting. Well, I don't even know if he considers it a mistake, but I think he thinks his only failing was the fact that he went to the end with Tony. That was not Wu's only mistake. Wu never took control of the game. He was always somebody else's puppet. And I have a feeling he might fall into that trap again if he's out on the island. So, you guys can vote for Wu. I'm not. PG Law. Doesn't that sound like a weird, like, kids' law show? Welcome to PG Law. Anyway, either way, yes, I have voted for her every time. PG Law because she was actually a good player out in China, and one of the things that I really liked about her is that when she's like, okay, they don't have the numbers over there. We have after a swap, we had the tribe that had been losing some challenges, they had some members over here and most of their members over here with 2 of the members of the other tribe. And they thought, look, we don't have the members over there, but we have the members over here. So if we throw challenges, we can even up the odds. And that was such, I'm like, yes! Finally, somebody's thinking that this whole, never throw a challenge. No, you throw it when it's right. And when you have the numbers over here, and your allies over there, and they don't have the numbers, and you have a chance to even up the odds, yes! Throw the challenge. Lose. The funny thing is, they threw the first challenge and they got a good player out. Then there was the thing with James, and then they gave James an idol, but then one of the players couldn't, it was a food eating challenge and she was trying to eat the bird egg fetus thing, I don't know, and she couldn't eat it. And so James, who was trying to, he was trying to throw it now, had to finish it up, and that's how he got 2 idols. So, in the end, it was all for naught because they got nervous. The people on the other side were really with them. But I think PG is someone who is thinking of the game and thinking of all the ways to play the game, not just the basic way that a lot of people do. And so I think PG, definitely somebody I want back. Stephen Fishback is going back. I'm voting for him every time, and I know that every person of the RHAP community is voting for him every time. I think that Fishback deserves a second chance. Fishback, he's the only person to have been swept in a Final 2. And it's really interesting how I think Fishback, the mistake... I don't see him making the same mistakes. It's possible, I guess. Maybe he and Spencer team up with each other and he doesn't cut Spencer just like he didn't cut JT. But I think that the big risk with Fishback is the fact that everybody knows that he's part of the RHAP community, which means Stephen Fishback has more connections with these people than anybody else. So that could be seen as a benefit. That could also be seen as a threat by some of the newer players who don't have those connections with him just yet. We'll have to wait and see. I think that he will be a great player. Whether he can win it, I don't know. It makes Survivor Know-It-Alls really interesting. It's like, instead of, they actually didn't win the game at all, it's like, actually only one of them has won it. Survivor Know-It-Alls. Anyway. So yes, Fishback is definitely someone who gets my vote every time. Kimmy Kappenberg, what are you doing here? My gosh, this is the one of them that I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you doing here? She was not a good player. She was a bad player. She was annoying. And sure, she might be a more grown-up, more mature woman, and she might not be annoying. But I don't see any game. I don't see any game from her. She didn't really have much game when she was there. The best thing she ever did was eat a worm, and I don't know. Kimmy is the one that I'm like, no, I'm not voting for her at all. I found her annoying her first time. I don't see what she can really bring to the game. If you're going for nostalgia, we got Kelly Wentworth, and she'll bring more nostalgia, and I think she can have more gameplay than Kimmy does. So, Kimmy, no. No, thank you. Bye. Come again. Terry Dietz, vote for every single time. You got it? Terry... Let me just tell you a story. I got into Survivor, as I said, around All Stars. Then I watched Vanuatu, and I saw a couple of things here and there. I missed a few seasons, but then I started watching Exile Island. Exile Island was one of the few ones that I saw from the beginning, and I was watching it all the way through, and I was rooting, man. I was rooting for Terry all the way. I was like, come on, Terry, bring it on, bring it on. And he was going so far, he was winning challenge after challenge after challenge, and he had a hidden immunity idol, which was the power idol, the Tyler Perry idol back then, when you could play it after the votes were read. And Terry was just absolutely incredible. You know, he was an amazing player, and what's funny about this is I've been wanting him back for so long. Like, I hear, and this might just be either my faulty memory or a rumor, that he was in the running for Heroes versus Villains, but when it became to either him or Tom Westman, you gotta kind of go for Tom at that point if you're doing Heroes versus Villains. But I've been wanting Terry back so far, and my greatest fear is he's too much in the past and not as big as personality as Shane to get on it. Oh boy, I want everyone to vote for Terry, please. Even if you don't really, you saw his video like, well, I don't really know him and I don't really care about him. Trust me, I want Terry. Just vote for me, okay? Do it for me. I want Terry back, and I need him back on this show. He's smart, he's a challenge beast, and he says how he's been keeping in shape just to make sure if he ever went back to Survivor. So he's still a challenge beast. It would be so interesting if him and Vetus were on, because Aris was the person that, in the end, won that season. So we got Vetus's brother and Terry. Oh my gosh, all the story personality. Shane was on this season with Terry. All the story personality and stuff that could happen with this show. You know, you can have Vetus saying, you know, Aris was never able to beat Terry in a challenge. I'm going to beat Terry in a challenge, or something like that. This could be a whole thing. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Terry needs to go back, okay? Put him back. Put a vote for Terry. Vote for Terry every single time. And if you can, make a second profile just so you can go back and vote for Terry again. Okay, Terry. Anyway, Sabrina Thompson. She's a vote for every odd one. She wasn't bad, but she really fell into Kim, Kim Spradlin's palm, and she really did everything that Kim wanted. In the end, Kim was a master manipulator, so you never know. You know, there are times when the master manipulator, or when somebody is out from under the thumb of the master manipulator, that they can do very well. I'm trying to think of any examples here. No, I can't. I'm not thinking of anything. Maybe that's not actually, but I think that she can do well. I'm throwing my vote for every. I'm voting for her every time because there's a couple coming up that I really don't get. But either way, I'm voting for Sabrina. Jeff Varner. Oh my gosh, this guy looks so different growing. He looks like a dad now. Probably is a dad, but. It's so weird because I've recently watched Australia too, and within the last year, and I want Jeff Varner back. Vote every time, every single time, because he is a guy that he was. I think if he had gone far, if it wasn't for that whole thing with, like, back then when they had the votes, for a tiebreaker. It wasn't a fire-making challenge or drying the rocks. What it was you had Jeff. You would get whatever votes went against you in tribal council from the previous one went against you. So let's say if we tied votes, went for us, and I had one vote against me and you had none, I would go home because I had one vote against me previously. They got rid of that rule, I think, partially because of Jeff Varner. Because he got screwed over it because Kimmy Kappenberg, yes, Kimmy, the other girl that I was talking about, the story is, while they were getting ready for a challenge, somebody said, So, who did this person vote for? And they said, oh, she voted for Jeff. And then Jeff goes, what did you... And because of that, the other side knew who the other person voted for, and when it came to the tiebreaker, they just threw their votes on Jeff because they knew that he had gotten a vote. And he got screwed over because of that. And so Jeff, vote for every time. Next is Maklia Wingle. I don't get her. I really don't. Maklia, I don't know, because I remember more about how Brandy didn't like her because she was trying to flirt and everything. You know, I remember that, but I don't really remember much about her. So, I guess vote every other time, I guess. I don't really know if she can do well, but at least I know she's strong in the challenges, I know that. She wasn't a pawn from everybody, I know that. So I think that's enough for me to say vote every other time. Anyway, yes, so I would say for Maklia, vote every other time. I don't really know much of, like, nothing that she did screamed mastermind, but nothing that she did screamed pawn either, you know? I think that's why Coach got rid of her, because she wasn't a pawn. I don't know, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, Andrew Savage. I was cheering for Savage when he was on Pearl Islands. I really was. But now that I've rewatched Pearl Islands completely, I don't think Andrew has it in him. I really don't think he has it. Because he's this type of guy that when he was playing, he tried to do everything so straightforward and honorable, but it really went to bite him in the butt. And he didn't really grasp the social part of the game, and he might have been a good leader on his tribe, but his tribe was a bunch of buffoons, to be perfectly honest. And so that's why it's kind of funny because you watch the season and they're like, well, we need a leader, so let's just vote Andrew Savage in. He can be the leader, but then I'll backstab him later. And then he was the leader, and they kind of just all fell into place, and they actually just followed him. Nobody was actually wanting to backstab him. They're like, well, he's the leader, so we'll follow him now, I guess. And then he took control of oh, well, let's do it. But, you know, he has a very big blind spot when it comes to some people. True, he was screwed over by the Outcast twist, but I would say that... Okay, I'd say every other time then, because sure, you can say that he got screwed over by the Outcast twist, but I don't know. I don't want people voting for Andrew Savage over Terry Dietz. Let me just put it that way. So I don't know. I haven't voted for Savage personally. What is Stephanie Valencia doing here? What is she doing here? She went out so far pre-merge that she's for the most. When I was typing in the comments what she was like, why is she in this listing? I was always saying, what is Russell's sidekick doing here? Because I didn't even remember her name. She was a pawn. B, she was a pawn to somebody when he didn't even have the numbers. I mean, why would you willingly try to side with somebody when they don't have the numbers? When you see that everybody else is like, oh, I don't really want to trust Russell, I don't like Russell, Russell's the first to go, you go, and that's the majority, you go, yes, definitely, I'm with you. Sure, you tell Russell you're with him too, but you make sure that you're in that major majority. She purposely went to Russell and stuck with him, and he was on the bottom, and he... No, don't vote for her. What is she even doing here? I don't know. Joe, yeah, I vote for Joe. Joe was very good. He was very social, very creative. He thought out of the box. The thing that made me like Joe more than any of his challenge abilities, any of his fake idol making, well, partially because of the fake idol, but there was a moment where Mike was always watching over Joe, and so Mike had everybody always watching Joe, so Joe could not get a time alone, and Joe wanted to make this fake unit immunity idol. So what he does is he goes with Dan, the guy, and he goes with Dan, And he goes, so is there anything that you can do for me? And Dan goes, I'm sorry, Joe. Nothing I can do. I agree 100%. So Dan goes, okay. And so then Dan goes back to the camp, and then Joe Cush takes off running because he knew everybody was watching him like a hawk in the camp. And so for Joe to actually just book it, he booked it. And then when Dan gets back, Monk's like, where's Joe? And he's like, what? Didn't he? Oh! And he realizes that he was he used Dan to get out of the sight from everyone so he can make his immunity out. That was absolutely brilliant. That's why Joe deserves to be back. More than any of the challenges. Sure, the challenges are good, but the fact that he can think outside of the box like that is more than enough. Shirin. I'm not voting for Shirin. Now you might be like, what? But she was in the end, she was a good player and everything. You know what? I was really surprised when Shirin got voted out. I really thought that after Jen was gone and Shirin was going to be the next target, people would start turning on each other because like, well, Shirin, she's such a small target. But no, people were so annoyed by her that they wanted her gone even then. Now, I'm not voting for Shirin because she was very annoying in the beginning. Like, sure, I grew to like her in the end. But when there was a moment that I'm just like, what are you doing? Where she's there, everyone's just sitting in camp and she's going, oh, say, can you, she? And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Is there any other reason besides you're on Survivor and you want to show off? What are you doing? I don't get you. I really don't get her. And I feel like if she goes back a second time, she's going to be picked off early. I really do. I hope. Like, Shirin isn't the worst player ever, but she's made some really questionable decisions. She made her choice to go with the no collars instead of the blue collars, even though everyone else was going for the blue collars. She decided to... Look, don't get me wrong, like, the whole thing with Will is much more of an idiot than Shirin is. But, for Shirin, she's not getting my vote because she hasn't shown me anything other than that she really loves Survivor, and that's something that I actually really am worried about. She's a humongous fan of the show. Here she's put on with all these classic characters that she has become such a big fan of. She's going to be starstruck, and she's going to not be thinking about how the game, you know, you look at, I'm a big listener of RHAP, and one of the things when I was listening to the Evolution of Strategy by Rob Cesternino was talking about, when I was going back, I was so excited to see Richard Hatch and Tina and all these other people, and I was just super excited. Boston Grob couldn't give a crap. To them, to him, they were just all people standing in his way. And that is how to play. You can't be starstruck. And I think that Shirin's going to be like, oh, wow, I'm playing the game with Stephen Fishback. Oh, wow, I'm playing the game with Spencer Bledsoe. You know, she's going to get, she's going to get starstruck. She's going to fall into somebody else's alliance. And I think she's not going to be that great of a player. But I think that she's really milking this whole Will was mean to me for all it's worth. So don't get me wrong, what Will did was completely wrong and completely idiotic. But I think she's partially playing, like, and I think it really did hurt her. But when I'm watching a Tyler eviction video and she's like, Tyler just stood there, I'm like, well, what does Tyler have to do with Will? Okay, let's move on, please. And I think she's really using this to make sure that she goes back. And I think she probably will. I don't think she'll do well, but I don't know. I don't know. Next, Brad Collpepper. No. Brad, well, he did some things good. He got overly paranoid too early. When he voted out John, he got cocky too early when he got voted out, and he just pissed so many people off. Brad, I don't think, has the chops to be a Survivor winner. Maybe he could be a good player. You know, I would have more faith in Brad Collpepper than, let's say, I would that what was his name? The guy in Blood vs. Water 2, the ball player. Oh shoot, it's on the tip of my tongue. That ball player that everyone found offensive. Anyway, I forgot his name. But I think Brad's a better player than that guy. But I don't see the player chops in him. I don't see the mastermind in him. So that, no. Tasha Fox, vote, vote, vote. Tasha is awesome. She's a good strategist, because she was in the most power position on the Brains tribe when things shook up. She was the one that was calling the shots all the time there. She was the one that was bringing other people in. It was because of her that Sarah wanted in on their alliance. It was because of Tasha, and I think Tasha also being such a great challenge competitor obviously means that she should definitely get another chance at this. I think that Tasha is great. I love her. I think that she is someone who definitely deserves a second chance, and I can't wait to see her back. What the heck is Mac Dawson doing on this list? Let me put it this way. The way I watch Survivor, depending on how many tribes, I get one pick each from each tribe. So if it's 2 tribes, I get 2 picks. If it's 3 tribes, 3. If it's 4, I get 4. So my picks this season were Mike, Jen, and Max. Boy, was Max such a bland disappointment. Not only did he not play, but he was annoying in the fact that he wasn't creating his own identity. You know, like, I can say this, Joe might be Malcolm-esque, but Joe is his own person. He's his own person. He has his own personality. He's his own player, and so Joe is Joe. Sure, there's similarities to other players, but Joe is Joe. I don't know who Max is. He was trying to be Richard Hatch by going all naked. He was trying to be Malcolm by saying, "Hey, hold up, bro." What were you doing? Okay? Don't treat Survivor like it's a joke by quoting everything. You're not watching a movie, you're playing a game. For crying out loud. Max was my biggest disappointment this season because I actually ended up really disliking him because to me, there was very few moments where he was actually playing, and a lot of moments where he was quoting, you know, and doing weird stuff. It was bad. Max, do not vote for Max. Do not. And while we're talking about people who don't vote for, Abbi Marria, please, come on. No, don't put Abbi Marria on there, with the one that everybody hates. I'm serious. Like, putting Abbi Marria back on to me is like choosing Nyanka. It's someone who is super annoying, super just does bad things in the game. I mean, the moment where she's like, "Oh, the clue for this advantage in challenge also has another one that I read myself, and so blah 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 blah." Nobody bought it. Nobody bought her giving, you know, having an idol. No one bought that at all. At all. They took her that far because she was so annoying. And honestly, I think that they probably should have taken her farther. If Malcolm and Denise really wanted to, if Malcolm wanted to win, he probably should have broken up that pair and used Abbi, but she was so annoying. Even Malcolm, a great strategist, did not want her on there. And so I don't want her back. I really don't. Abbi Marria is annoying. She is painful to watch. And she's so spiteful. She's so spiteful. And that's why. No. Vetus. Vote every single time. Vetus. Vetus, Vetus, Vetus. Because Vetus showed that he has some game in him. He showed how, you know, he can manipulate others. He showed how he can use his story to, like it's kind of interesting because you see Vetus sharing his story about his struggle with drugs and his time in jail, and everyone thinks that's okay. And people hear Rodney sharing his story about his sister to manipulate people, and everyone's like, oh, that's disgusting. Sure, those are two different levels, but I think Vetus is more sly than Aris, and I personally, even though Aris has won the game, I think that Vetus is a better player, because you could see that in Blood versus Water. Aris was very blindsided by Tyson. And I think that Vetus is somebody who, playing the second time, I think he could definitely run the table. I think he can be, out of all the men, the manipulators that I see is Vetus, Steven, Jeremy, maybe, and Mike. And Spencer to a point. Like, the manipulators, that doesn't mean that the good players, or the bad players or anything. I mean, like, Terry is a great player. He's not necessarily as much of a manipulator as controlling other people's emotions. Mostly, when Terry's playing, he's like someone who everyone kind of wants to follow, wants to get to the end. I don't know what Terry's end game would have been like if he had the numbers. That would have been very interesting to watch. But for someone like Vetus, I think he has the ways where he can make you believe him and vote you out that same night. And that's why I would say Vetus gets a vote. And so those are my picks. The one I want the most is Terry. Terry is the one let me put it this way. When Terry lost Survivor, when he made challenge after challenge win and got all the way and he lost Survivor, I quit watching Survivor. Because at that point I was just like, good guys can't win this game. It's just that simple. Good guys can't win. And I was so pissed at Danielle, and I stopped watching Survivor for a very long time. It wasn't actually... I didn't start watching Survivor again until I walked into my sister, Nicole. She started watching the first episode of Survivor South Pacific. So I walked in and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll sit down and watch. And it was, I think Cochran was one of the reasons why I started watching the game, because I'm like, a guy like Cochran can get far in this game. That's kind of cool. Anyway, so yes. But after that, I've now seen every single season. I'm back to being a Survivor fanatic. But Terry is one of those guys that I was rooting for all the way. I'm still rooting for him to... So... Even if you guys don't know who Terry is, please throw a vote his way. He's the only guy that I want to see back more than any of the others. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is my look at the castaways that might get a second chance and who I think deserves it. Bye. Be sure to check out more of my other videos on my channel. And wait for more coming soon.